Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Johanna, and for those of you who are new here, welcome. And for those of you who are returning, welcome back. In today's video, we're going to be doing a journal on a budget, and if that is of interest to you, please stay tuned. All right, so I have a bunch of things here, and we're actually going to be working on a layout together, but I did want to chat a little while with you guys. I will put in the description box as well as a pinned comment timestamps of the different sections to include supplies and things like that. So if you're just interested in skipping ahead, please feel free to do so. So I was watching a video on YouTube the other day, and I think the title of it was Simple and Easy Journal Spreads. So I watched it, and it looked like the YouTuber had done some screen grabs from Instagram and had shown some videos from there. And they were really pretty spreads. I was very happy with the video. And then, like I like to do, I was reading the comments, and many of the people who were commenting were like me, like, oh, that's really pretty, it's really streamlined, it's very simple and yet elegant. I mean, it was very positive comments. But the comments that struck me the most was, oh, so if I want to do this simple and easy spread, I need all these punches and all these papers and all these tapes and all these pens and all these things in order to do that. Well, then it's not very simple and easy, is it? And that really struck me. Now, I have been crafting for years, so I have tons of markers and pens and washi and all of these things. But if you are starting out, or if you're interested in journaling but think you have to have all of the things, then I'm hoping that this series will help you get your feet into it and see that you don't actually need a whole bunch of stuff. I know this little tablescape would say otherwise, but you really don't. And when I give you the supplies lists, I don't want you to focus on the specific brands or the specific types, and that's why there's so many things on the desk, just so I can show you some alternatives, because depending on where you are, you might not have access to some of these things. I'm not even going to put any affiliate links in the description box. I really would prefer if you shop your stash first. Otherwise, hit up your local dollar store or Daiso or Walmart, Target, hit up the dollar spots and try to get this as inexpensively as possible. Now, for you veteran journalers, or you junk journalers, or your scrapbookers, or just people who have accumulated things, this is not about being minimal or doing minimalist spreads. It's just, I think sometimes when we have all the things, we take for granted, like, yeah, I don't have that punch, but I could substitute that. I don't have that washi, but I could do this. I don't have that pen, but I could do this, because we have alternatives already with us. I know another video I had watched about doing an easy junk journal when you don't have a lot of supplies, and her solution was to just buy her digital kit, print it out, and then you'd have your junk journal. And I mean, she wasn't wrong, but it was a bit disingenuous. I mean, what if you don't have a printer? What if you don't have a color printer? That's just, it's not easy. So I'm hoping that this are very easily sourced materials, and you can always add to. So as we go along in this journal, I will be adding elements, just as you might if you were finding a hobby that you really enjoyed and decided, you know what, this is worthwhile to invest, and I can get maybe higher quality pens or paper or washi or whatever. But I'm hoping this is just really useful to you guys. Now, for the supplies, I am starting off with 10 things. Again, I know it's a little misleading with the desk here, but I'm really starting out with 10 different supplies. A few of them are a bit wild cards, but I think a combination of all of these items will give you a lot of variety and a lot of creativity and a lot of way to use the items that you may not have been aware of. So the first thing I would recommend, or I think is absolutely necessary, it's more than a recommendation, is getting a notebook. Now, I will be using this right here, a composition notebook. This cost me $1, had it in my stash, and this is something that is easy for me to get a hold of. But I know for those abroad, international countries, this might either be really expensive or very hard to get, or both. So you could also do a notebook like this. It doesn't matter what the pages look like. It doesn't matter if it's a grid, lined, dot, or blank. It doesn't matter if the pages are white or not. Just a notebook. This one I got from Daiso a while ago. It was $1.50. This is a different kind of composition notebook in that this cover is kind of plasticky and it is slightly smaller, if you can see, but this would work as well. Again, just a notebook. This was probably a little bit more, so maybe like closer to $2 just because of the cover. This is a graph composition notebook, so it does have graph pages. And I also have this here, which is a lined B6. Again, a notebook. This came with the Moterm cover that I'm using for my Stology, and this would work fine as well. So again, whatever you have, whatever you can source, and if you can even shop your stash, even better. The next thing I'd recommend is actually a black pen. Now, if you have a multiple of pens, then fine. You use all of them, use what you have. But I would definitely recommend, if you are starting and you don't, then I would recommend 2 different sized pens. I'm using a 0.5 and a 0.3. This is a Pigra Micron. This is a High-Tech C. Again, it doesn't matter. I think the different nib sizes will give you different effects on the page, and you just get more bang for your buck. The next thing I'd recommend would be markers. Now, I've had these in my stash in my local Walmart. I think these cost me about $3, $2.99. Water-based markers I would recommend the most, and I don't actually know if there are markers that aren't. I wouldn't recommend a Sharpie, I guess. I don't think those are water-based. They're permanent, but water-based will give you some options on how to use the pen. So I'm going to be using these as well. Then of course scissors. Now these scissors aren't actually that sharp, so I have a multiple of scissors. I probably have in my arsenal about 10 different scissors, and really I have a problem throwing away bad scissors. You will need glue. I'm just using a glue stick. This I have learned from Debbie of Plan Do Repeat, and I will link her channel below. If you use a glue stick versus wet glue, you have a less likely chance of having your pages warp. Again, whatever glue you have, use that. But this is very inexpensive, and I think it's easily sourced by many people. So we've got our notebook, black pen, markers, scissors. Now, and then the other thing you probably have is just a straight edge. It doesn't have to be a ruler, it doesn't have to be metal, it doesn't even have to be this big, but it will help you get some straight edges if you are using it. So the rest of these supplies are kind of wild cards. So this here I got from Daiso, it was $1.50, and it's just a packet of white paper. Now if you had copier paper, even better. It isn't necessary that it be on a bound system like this. It's just my pages have lines, and so I wanted to add some different elements by having some blank pages. I chose white. If you have other colors, again, that's up to you. I do have Kraft paper on the roll, so the kind that you wrap packages with to mail, but I was at Walgreens yesterday and I picked up some things, paid 15 cents for this, and I'm going to use this, and then eventually when I run out of this, I'll go to the Kraft paper that I have because I love this color. If you have lunch bags in your arsenal, then definitely use that. Now, if you don't like this brown color, then you can always recycle packaging or magazine or whatever that you have in your stash. But I do like this, and so I am going to use it. The other kind of wild card is a hole punch, and this will give us some textures as well as some decorations that we can use. This one I think I got at Target for $2. I think I can get one at Walmart actually for a little bit cheaper. Again, it's up to you whether or not you need to have this or need to use this, but I did have it, so I thought I would add it to the arsenal. And between all of these things, right here, a paintbrush. 10 things, and I know it looks like a mishmash and my table is a mess, but I think you can make some really interesting and creative journal spreads. in your journal. So again, as we go along with this series, I might add a washi tape here or a different colored pen there, but this is really what we're going to use to start with. All right, so let me get a little organized and move some of these things to the side. Now for this, I do have this to the side. I actually only keep this for the purpose of if I'm filming, I can jump online on this little phone here. This is my old phone, and I can look up doodles or definitions or things like that, and I find it handy. For you guys, you can just jump on your computer, your phone, your iPad, however you're getting online. I mean, obviously you are, because you're watching this, but I find that a useful tool. So this is the notebook that I will be using. I have actually already started in here, and I'll show you the first spread that I did in just a minute. But what we're going to do is, because this paper is so thin, I'm also going to take Debbie's advice and we're going to glue some pages together. Now, I had never done that before, so I didn't do a very good job of it, but that's okay. That kind of worn look is not going to be problematic for me. This one you can really tell, and that was my fault, because not only was I gluing pages together, but I was also taking pages out, and I didn't line it up properly. So that's totally user error. And so this is 2 pages together, and this is 2 pages together. Okay, so this is something that I had in my stash. If you have wax paper, foil paper, parchment paper, you can use any of that, use any of the tools. I just use this mostly so that when I'm using the glue, that I don't get glue on the pages underneath. Now you do have to kind of pay attention, and that's kind of where I messed up before. So I'm going to glue these 2 pages together. And so I want to put this under the bottom page. And then, like Debbie recommended, she goes in the spine here, and she does along the edges. And then just a few across. You don't need to do the whole page. Now, if your book is heavier weight, or your notebook is heavier weight, then you may not need to do this step. But I know that this paper is really thin, and so this just makes sense to me. Now, the way that I was cutting out paper, and I need to be very aware of how I do that, is I'd have the page that I wanted to glue, and I would actually take an X-Acto knife. You could take a scissors. You could actually carefully rip it out, but I'm not very good at that. And then I would just kind of slice it very thinly, barely even cutting it, not even caring if I got close to the edge, and then just sort of ripping it. So I'm making more of a perforation than anything. And it doesn't matter how neat it is. And this I'm just going to keep. And then this page I would glue. And the reason I'm taking some pages out is I'm assuming that this is going to get really chunky. And so I'm just trying to alleviate some of that, because we are adding papers to this. And while I don't mind a little bit of chunkiness, I don't know that I want it full on. So that's what I'm doing. And the reason I'm doing it in this way is so that we hide that. So it doesn't, I mean, I'd like to get it as close to the edge as possible, but it doesn't matter if it's not fully on the edge, because I'm just going to sandwich it between these 2 pages anyway. And that's how I've been doing it. Now, because it isn't fully on the edge, that's what's creating that gap. But again, that's not a problem for me. So let me show you the spread that I've done. I did this earlier today. And this is what I've done with the materials that I've showed you guys. And what this journal is going to be for me is an anything journal. So I'm going to do anything I want in this journal. I do have a work journal. I do have a happy journal that I track things. But this one, what I plan to do is when I want to play, or I want to doodle, or I want to just play with some of my stuff, I'm going to come in here, use those items that I've shown you previously, and I'm going to think of a word, and that word's going to set the tone for the entire spread. And for me, it's just a method to play that gives it some semblance of order. There isn't going to be any rhyme or reason to the words that I'm choosing. It's just that's how I plan to attack this. Now in the back here, I've already actually started playing with some of the material. So this is part of the bag from Walgreens. And then this is some paper that I color washed last night so that it would be dry. This is just paper that I've used the markers on. Again, that's that white paper. And then I tried some color washing on some of the papers that I had ripped out, and that's the effect right there. And you're like, whoa, 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 whoa. Where's the watercolor? Okay, well, I'm glad you asked. All right, the reason why it was important to have these water-based is so that we could paint with them. Now, I'm using a paper plate for two reasons. One, I don't have a palette that's accessible to me at this moment. Two, it's easy, accessible, and we had it in the house, and it also has a white background because the background on my here isn't white. So if I had something clear like a piece of glass, it might throw off what you're looking at. And so I'm just going to paint this. Now, if you are using a paper plate like I am, it does need to be coated. You can't use the rough paper one that is very porous, because then you're just going to be coloring the thing and this won't work. You can tell that it works because it's beading, okay? And let me get some of that white paper. And you can do this trick on copier paper too. This just was in my stash, and it's a good size, and it's portable, and so I'm just going to rip out 2 pages, more so that the bottom pages sort of protects the surface here. And I always have bottled water next to me, and I'm just going to add a bead there. And that's why a paintbrush was one of our tools. And now you can create watercolors. Now, I have watercolors. I have actually really nice watercolors, but that watercolor set was $20. You can get some of the Crayola sets for like $1 or $2. But again, depending on what you have and what you have access to, I say start off with some simple materials that you can use double duty. So you can do this where you do color washes on a page, and this may not seem like it's anything, but when we do the layout together, I'll show you how I'm going to be using these things. And you're really just multitasking your supplies. What you won't get, because you are diluting a marker, is very strong colors. But I just really wanted a wash on the page. I didn't want this to be stark white. And so this is fulfilling the purpose that I need. All right, I would let this dry. Overnight seemed to work the best for me. I'm going to put this to the side. I think you guys get the idea of how I created those papers. And now we're actually going to do a layout using all of the stuff that we have at our disposal. So this was the layout that I did earlier today. And I just did some doodling, did some lettering, and for me, the lettering or my writing on the page is part of the decoration. So what we're going to work on is this front page right here. Again, I had done these last night. They are fully dry, and I think I'm going to use this one right here. And this was the first page that was in the book, and I just glued it down to this cover page because I didn't need that. Now, eventually I'll cover this outside, but it's not important for me for right now. And while I was playing earlier, I did punch some holes in here, and that's basically what those things are right there. I think it just adds a nice little element to the page. And so I am going to continue with the craft paper. And I kind of like that edge at the top there. I'm going to do this kind of straight across. Now I use this because I don't want to put glue on here or on here. Again, you could use anything as the surface, it's just this is what I have. And yeah. I really try to make sure that I get the edges so that it lays down pretty flat. And my space is really small, so I kind of just have to work around things like I'm doing now. And I think we'll kind of do it at an angle like that. And then we have this other side. And I think we'll do that there. Before we put anything down though, I think we will rip some of this. Because I like the torn edge look. So, fun tip, if you want this to be a little bit more straight, go slow. This was one of the pages that I did last night. So let's try something. Kind of like how that looks, although maybe we should do that more centered. All right, so let me put this down. All right, I think that's a good start. This is lifting a little, so add some. And then we can use some of these on this side. I actually like how this looks. I think I put this a little too far up, and so I had to split that. And really what I wanted to make this look like is just old lettering on a page. I think it might have looked a little better had I actually spelled words. But I kind of like the squiggly aspect of it, not gonna lie. Okay, we've got that. And then just do some layering. Just gives us a little bit of depth to the page. And then that watercolored page looks really interesting. So I'm not too concerned that the colors aren't really dark or that it doesn't look like anything, because really it doesn't need to at this point. Okay. And we'll keep our scraps to the side here. And let's look for a doodle. Well, actually, let's look up the definition of journal. Okay. And so on this side, to sort of mirror this, I'm going to use this and just do a very simple script. Okay, so done the definition of journal, done the definition of anything, kind of messed up there, but that's fine. And then this is from Oxford Languages online. Over here, I think we will do a very simple doodle. The more I look at that, the more I like it, not gonna lie. I kind of like that one right there. I am really sorry if the glare is horrible. So I'm just gonna come down. Now I don't do anything in pencil because I never do that. That's why pencil actually wasn't part of one of the 5 things, but you certainly could add that towards your repertoire. I'm just not a fan of doing things twice, and I also don't like erasing things. The act of erasing and all of the little nubs of erasing things just really bother me. I don't know why. So we're gonna just do some simple kind of similar flowers. I actually don't like the scale of that, so I'm going to make it bigger just by outlining what I've already done. And I think that definitely looks better. Well, from a scale perspective anyway. We'll do one more leaf there. So it's very simple. I'd like to do some things here. So maybe we'll use that. And punch holes. It's not the greatest, so sometimes it takes out the circle, sometimes it doesn't. And we'll rip that. And you certainly could cut it. I kind of like the torn edge of it. And then we'll do another one. And this paper is actually really thin. That could be another reason why these aren't cooperating. Now you're probably looking at this and thinking there are millions of easier ways you could do this. And absolutely. I have tons of paper that can replicate this. I have tons of washi that I could get really cool effects from. But if you are starting out, you might not. And so where I think accumulating this stuff is helpful by way of the amount of time that you're spending on putting things together, I think something like this does inherently force you to be a little bit more creative with the stuff that you're making, because you don't have that much to rely upon, just your own ingenuity and creativity. All right, I kind of want to do some showing and some not. And I hope this is in frame. I never know until I actually go to edit, so if it isn't, I am so sorry. But we'll put this one down first. I'll put it over here. And then we can do that right there. And I'll wipe some of that excess off, more so the parts that are clumping. And then I'll wipe my hands. Now the craft paper that I have on the roll, the one that you mail packages with, is way thicker than this. I kind of like this because it does smooth down really easy, but I kind of like the craft paper on the roll because it is way thicker than this. So it's just a little bit easier to handle. I've got these lens cleansing wipes. It's just going to wipe off some of the glue off my hands. And then maybe, I don't know, is that too much? That seems like too much. Let's just add a little bit more journaling. All right, guys, and there is our spread. I think it actually looks really interesting. I kind of want to keep adding more. In fact, maybe I'll add some of these dots while I'm finishing up talking to you guys. I'm hoping when you're watching this, you are either inspired to make one of your own if you thought it was either too time consuming or that you needed too many things. Or just too difficult to do. I'm hoping this inspires you in that regards. Do I have any more dots? I do. If you are a veteran crafter, scrapbooker, or journaler and you have all of the things, I'm hoping this inspires you to maybe do something like this where it isn't about Marie Kondoing your life. It's more about, all right, how would I use very simple, very easily sourced, very budget-friendly products, things that I have in my stash without using printables, without using all of my ephemera and my pens and my washi and my things. How would I use just very simple items? And would I be able to create something that I enjoy? Now, I certainly would like to just keep putting more and more and more on the page, but I think this actually looks really simple. Easy is relative. I mean, I thought the doodling was easy. I thought the writing was easy. Oh, another one. But I don't want you guys to be intimidated. I don't want you to think, oh, well, I don't have the writing skills, or my writing doesn't look like that, so I can't do it. Even if you post your items online, that's a one-time thing for someone to look at. You get to look at this as often and as many times as you want. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna enjoy coming in here and looking at things. This is not colors that I'm really into. I don't really like purple. I certainly don't like this vibrant sort of royal purple. But I'm gonna challenge myself to use my stuff. I may not film every time I use it. There's probably going to be a running theme of craft paper on the page, because I think even if I use colors that don't match from layout to layout, the layouts will seem cohesive, and I just really love the look of craft paper. But this journal is going to be anything that I want. You can use yours for a faith journal. You can turn this into a bullet journal. You can use this into an art journal. I mean, what you use it for is truly up to you. I just really want to let you guys know that you can use simple items to make a very, I think, pretty layout that encourages not only writing, which I am a huge fan of, but also just creating with stuff. I don't know. I'd love to know what you guys think. Would you be interested in more videos like this where I just open up to the next available page and just play with those supplies that I've mentioned at the beginning of the video? Definitely let me know in the comments below. All right, guys, that's it for me for now. And as always, aloha.